Hello everyone. In this video, we will discuss the current situation on the market, try to understand whether there has been a reversal, or this is another pump before the drain, and also discuss an action plan. So, let's start with the fact that in previous videos, I said that a position you are confident in can only be considered after removing these liquidity floors or after removing this stop. And as a result, a strong growth occurred after the removal of local pileups, and there was a high-quality reversal pattern on a small time frame. Let's watch 15 minutes, and we see a double fracture of absorption, and accordingly, here it was possible to try a long aggressive composition for a new low. The situation is very similar to a reversal from $25,000. Right here, absolutely the same picture on a small time frame. And please note, the same fracture with the diver, also an aggressive long position, or just on a new PO with a stop for the last low. And now, it is important to figure out what prices we can grow to, and whether that reversal has occurred, whether Bitcoin will go above $34,000. And at the moment, it is as difficult as possible to talk about 34. And I would start from the level of 28,600, which is still relevant. And on this pump, this goal was not achieved. Therefore, the current growth, in my understanding, can continue to a maximum of 28,600. And here, personally, I plan to take a hat short position against my spot positions with a stop for this level. And if it breaks through, then most likely Bitcoin is going exactly 34 and possibly higher. But so far, as I said, we are focusing on 28,600 or more conservatively. This is this level, that is, $27,000. A strong and deep correction, or even reversals are also possible here. But so far, everything looks very good. We have removed this high on the current pump, and now it is logical to expect a correction of this upward momentum. And you can take a closer look at the chart at about current prices. You can even put an aggressive table at this level, but it's better to come here more conservatively. That's 26,563. And now everything looks quite bearish, but if we see a correction, then in my understanding, it will just be a correction of this upward momentum, and growth is likely to continue because there is a very high-quality reversal with a good balance. And it is in this zone that we can see a correction in the near future. But here, it is important to remember about the same reversal from $25,000, which is very similar to the current one. Last time, please note, we did not receive a strong correction. Bitcoin just rushed up, not allowing anyone to surpass its position. Therefore, there may also be something similar here, and we may not see a strong decline. But technically it looks like this. That is, a decrease from the current ones in order to correct this downward momentum. Therefore, so far the mood is short, but more medium-term growth is likely to continue for at least $27,000 so far. And here we will also observe the market, but I would like to see exactly 28,600 so that all market players are given the opportunity to break, even if they believe that the downward movement will continue, because the logical purchases were made in the $28,000 zone. And personally, I also strengthened my position on Bitcoin, which previously gained $25,000. And even on this pump, I had the opportunity to break even plus, taking into account this position. But I didn't do it, because I was sure that we would reach exactly the level of 28,600. And it is still, as I said, relevant. Therefore, personally, I am waiting for the continuation, just after a small local correction. Next, let's move on to the dollar index. We removed an important high. From here, it is logical to see a correction, but personally I do not expect a reversal and a hike below this low, because we removed this high, in fact, broke the descending structure here. And now, if we see a decline, then most likely it will be just a correction. And locally, everything looks like a U-turn again. We have already shown this reversal twice and confirmed it. And here is another confirmation with a good reversal pattern. Therefore, technically again, it is logical to expect a decline in the dollar index, which means growth in all other markets. But after this correction, I think that the growth will continue in this zone. And this is quite synchronous with the fact that Bitcoin can get a good decline from the level of 28,600. Therefore, here you will need to look closely at purchases and see what will happen to Bitcoin when the dollar index is in this zone. That is 109 points. But locally, so far everything looks good, and it will be great if we get a good decline, at least here, against which Bitcoin can show good growth. Let's move on to altcoins. Let's start with the Ether. There was also a good reversal here after the removal of this low. And let me remind you that unlike Bitcoin, Ether is already in the zone of $22,000 with a similar Bitcoin. And in general, Ether looks good specifically in the current realities. And you can single out a goal for growth of 1,670 at least. And more optimistically, this is the level of $1,800, which is equivalent to Bitcoin at 28,600. And now, everything looks very good for continued growth. And unlike Bitcoin, which locally looks like a decline, it is impossible to say this on the Ether. Here, we have left a fairly strong trend liquidity, and in fact, it is logical to look for shorts after all, after updating these Ks. But this is just a local short in order to come to this zone, after which growth is likely to continue at least above this level. But if we compare this growth with the growth of $25,000, where a deep correction was not given, then the same thing can happen here. Therefore, if you try shorts, it is with minimal risk, and it is better to wait for this zone. Try a position with a stop already for this level. Next, let's look at the Dota coin. In the medium term, of course, the tool looks sad, like all alt bitcoins. They rolled very hard, and in my understanding, now is the time when you need to accumulate altcoin, even through a banal strategy with averaging, because the prices are very good in the long term. Yes, we can still fall, it's hard to say. According to the DOT, I allocated a long-term goal below $3.50, and if Bitcoin goes to 22,600, obviously, this goal will be achieved, and here I will make additional purchases. If we talk about the local situation, then there is not such a beautiful picture here as for Bitcoin and Ether, and there is no certainty that a qualitative reversal has occurred here. But nevertheless, if Bitcoin is going to go higher, then Bitcoins will also show good growth. If we single out the goal specifically for the coin before, then I would focus on level 4 and 4 at the moment. Next, the Atom coin. And from the older timeframes, everything also looks not very good. I noted that there is no strong support zone here, and most likely, this LOI will still be updated. Therefore, the Atom gives a hint that if there is a strong growth now, including for Bitcoin, then most likely it will end with another decline, and specifically for the Atom. This is below this LOI, that is, below $5.50, we can still see the Atom. And the long-term goal is here, that's about $3. And of course, here you will need to make additional purchases and strengthen your positions. Let's look at the local situation. Everything is a little better here than the DOT coin. We also see a good reversal with the absorption of this ordered block, and technical growth should also continue. At the moment, we have achieved this conservative goal. From here, we can see the local correction, but given the fact that Bitcoin wants to go higher, then the Atom is likely to move higher. So far, I would focus on level 7.11. Has there been a U-turn here? Most likely, hardly. And after the growth, the downward movement may continue. Next, let's look at Solana. Let me remind you that it is in the medium-term support zone, and here you can look closely at spot purchases or a set. Long positions in previous videos, I noted that we are more likely to see a third fracture here. It happened, but in the end, the Adobe fell even lower, and locally looks good enough to continue growing, so you can make a purchase here. Personally, I did not commit, because I already have quite large positions on other altcoins. But there is also a good reversal pattern on a small Tefrom, and Solana can continue to grow. I would single out the goal 22.3, which was not achieved. That is, this zone is very magnetic. There is a lot of semi-liquidity here, so most likely the shale goes here. Whether it will go higher, we will see later, but so far, taking into account Bitcoin, I have adhered to conservative goals. Next, let's look at the Link coin. Just like Solana, this instrument is in the medium-term support zone. Here, it is worth considering the bonds and purchases. I also strengthened my position in this particular zone. That is, let me remind you, I sold 30% here, and I returned this 30% a little lower. And locally, it also looks pretty good, because we removed this loot, came out with absorption and imbalance. For a retest, you can allocate this level 588. And then, I would like to see more serious growth. So far, the target is 6,945. And if Bitcoin gets a continuation of the downtrend, then of course, the Link will go lower. And most likely, we will test this level for $5.50. But so far, everything looks good for continued growth. Let's also look at the AMX coin. Personally, I made a purchase here with a limit order in this zone, which I warned about in advance. We have gone a little lower, but I am acting according to my plan, and locally, the picture here is not as good as on other altcoins. We do not see a good reversal pattern here, and in general, it is not clear whether a reversal will occur in this zone. But personally, I am ready to hold this position, because a huge number of goals from above have remained, and I think we will come to them. Personally, I'm aiming at $0.9 so far, but the locally conservative target is in this void, that is, about $0.67. Well, in the end, let's look at Aptos. It is also in the medium-term support zone. Here we see 3 translations, and in previous videos, I also assumed that a large player accumulates a position on these wicks, and in general, long-term loans obviously are quite tasty prices, and here you need to accumulate a coin. And the strategy with averaging here also, in my understanding, should work well. On a small time frame, we did not see a good reversal pattern. We left the equalizer here, but nevertheless, growth has occurred, and so far, it is not clear whether we will go somewhere higher, whether there is a long-term reversal here, because everything depends on Bitcoin. Therefore, it is better to draw concrete conclusions when Bitcoin comes to $27,000 or to the level of 28,600. So, let's go back to Bitcoin. Let's see what's going on here. Another growth. I suggested taking a short position on the current composition for this high, but perhaps this high will be knocked out, and it is better to put a stop for this level, but to put a very small risk in this short because the priority is still up. And if we see a downward movement now, it will still be just a correction of this upward momentum. But if we compare this growth with a reversal of $25,000, then there was no deep correction. And the same thing can happen here, so the charts are as dangerous as possible. But technically, everything looks quite bearish. And let's see how it ends up. I think the denouement will be in the near future. This video comes to an end. Do not forget to subscribe to the Telegram channel. Thank you all for watching.